Hi, my name is Anna Prince, and today I will be defending the argument that euthanasia is morally wrong based on the principle of virtue ethics. So, virtue ethics originated in ancient Greece with the philosophers Plato and Aristotle, and virtue ethics is said to be the principle of virtue ethics says that an action is right if and only if a virtuous agent acting in character would perform or enact that virtue in a particular circumstance. And virtue ethics gets its roots from three Greek concepts, and this is the concepts of eret, which is excellence or virtue itself, phronesis, which is the practical or moral judgment, and then eudaimonia, which is happiness or flourishing. And Aristotle thought that the sole purpose of human existence was to achieve eudaimonia, and in order to do that, you obviously have to possess eret, virtue, and then have phronesis, this moral judgment, to know when to use this virtue and how to use it. So, so today in bioethics, there are many disputes, such as the one I'll be talking about today, euthanasia, that surround the idea of the sanctity of life. So, firstly, euthanasia is the deliberate action taken with the intention of ending a life in order to relieve persistent suffering. And then the sanctity of life, obviously, is like that respect for life, and it's often considered to be recognized as in the realm of God, but non-religious believers often interchange it with a phrase called the right to life, and we all have the right to have our life be respected and protected. And a responsible agent knows that his duty is to protect life and enhance it, and the way to enhance this is to possess certain virtues. And one virtue of this would be reverence, more specifically the reverence for life. So, agents with reverence of life are going to respect living things, admire their biological natures, and handle them delicately. So this sounds an awful lot like what physicians or doctors swear to and like acknowledge and believe in when they take their Hippocratic oaths. And the Hippocratic Oath, in the original version, there's a quote that says, "I will neither give a deadly drug to anybody who asks for it, nor will I make a suggestion to this effect." And again, while this is not in the modern version today, obviously it was important enough to be highlighted in the original version. And in the modern version today that they do swear by, there's a line that says, "I must not play at God," which is exactly what's happening when this physician participates or chooses to euthanize that patient. They're disrupting the process of creation, and they're shaping and terminating life, which is not something that a person with reverence would do, with the virtue of reverence. So those in favor, though, of reverence may argue that reverence isn't a need, or those in favor of euthanasia may argue that reverence is not a virtue that is needed to be characterized as a virtuous person or a virtuous agent, and there are other things that can help them reach it, other virtues. But it's important to note that it is possible actually to have too much of a virtue, to a fault, you could say, and too much could actually make someone act morally wrong. An example of this is, let's say, a compassionate person tells a lie to someone instead of being honest because they didn't want to hurt their feelings. Again, that's morally wrong. And then person with courage, if they have too much courage, they have more courage to do an evil deed than if they were just timid. So those are two examples. Yet with reverence, it's very hard to find fault in its excess because according to Paul Woodroff's definition, the idea of the principle of reverence actually includes the concept of shame. And so that is like a humbling attribute in itself and acts almost as like a nullifier of any excess that it could have. And again, the target for reverence is to respect those things that are wonderful and important. And so the only fault that we're going to put in reverence is in our human judgment, in our phronesis. It is what we choose to put our respect in. So another argument for euthanasia could claim that a patient in pain who's asking to be euthanized, a reverent agent would find that it is irreverent to let them live a life that is so bleak and like so painful. And their appropriate response should be to regret the loss of life and feel regret at having to be its cause. Yet a true reverent agent is going to realize that that is not even in their power to be able to terminate this life because they did not create the ability to produce life. So, how could they possess the power to take it away? And additionally, the regret at this loss that they're feeling would never have needed to occur if they didn't take away the life in the first place. So a lot of virtuous agents are going to recognize that multiple virtues are going to come into play and be relevant in cases, especially such as this. Yet they're going to have to examine the situation to determine which one is the most important or has the most weight. And in this case, it would be reverence for life, respect for this life. It would be the most important virtue, and it would even outweigh others like compassion, courage, or justice that you would think would come into play. And again, the virtues agent has to use phronesis, their moral judgment, to come to this decision. So, in conclusion, based on the principle and usage of virtue ethics, any procedure that involves the terminating of life, such as euthanasia, is in violation of those ethics and morally wrong. Thank you.